This Tame the Beast, I'm going to show you a super simple way to increase the number of engagement points or touch points in a buyer or customer journey than you were able to report on before. So there are lots of touch points or engagement points within those customer journeys or buying journeys that marketing are usually unable to attribute to their own activities and therefore report on them or take credit for them. Together, those touch points have kind of infamously become known as the dark funnel. So I'm going to show you a really easy way, which is just creating a property called Where Did You Hear About Us, and then doing some cool things with that will help you increase the number of those touch points that you can attribute to your own efforts. This is by no means a catch-all solution, but it does help us get somewhere in terms of improving our reporting and attribution capabilities. So first of all, we want to create the property. So you go into settings and then properties, and then create a property, and it is a contact information property. Then in label, so label is what basically displays on your form to the user. So where did you hear about us, question mark. Okay, then the description is basically an internal note for your team, but we're not going to add that today. We're going to use a drop down select. And now we can add in our dark funnel touch points. So there are two schools of thought here. So one school of thought says don't add any predefined options, just allow a single line text field and the user can add in their own text, so wherever they found your company. This school of thought that we're going to look at today is going to offer predefined options. So you want to add here all of the options that they could use. So it could be like organic social, LinkedIn, a PPC ad. You want to add all of those, obviously, because there will be people who found you not in the dark funnel, but we're not going to add them today. So we're just going to add some possible dark funnel touch points. So let's say you attended a big B2B event. Obviously, you would add the name of the event in here, and all of these should be specific to your company, right? So personal recommendation. So this is a personal or a professional recommendation. This normally means that the person recommending your product or service is a current or past customer who had a good experience. And we'll talk about why that's important in a bit. So podcast. So maybe you were a guest on a podcast, or you sponsored an episode, or you had an ad, a mid-roll ad or something. So it's quite difficult to attribute that without having, additional tools and software. So just having that here may help. Review, software review websites. Then perhaps you were featured in a big B2B publication. Again, use the specific name of the publication. And other than using things like referral as an original source, you could just try using the name here and then reporting on that specifically. Perhaps they didn't give you, UTM options or anything like that. And then other, and we'll do something with other in a second as well. So you've got all of your predefined fields. So let's create that property. So you now have your menu items. You now need to create a second property, which is called please specify. So I've already created that. Here it is. So basically you need to create this so that you can use this additional field in your form. So it's a dependent field, and I'll show you that in a second. So you just need to create a new field, nothing fancy, label it with a user-facing label, and then its single line text is the type of field. Okay, so you'll create one of those. Then let's jump back into our form. So we're in our book a demo form, as always, super standard. Then on search for properties and fields, we'll type in where did, and there's our new property. So we'll add that under phone number. So now we have it here, so the user can select one of our predefined options. Now, because we have other, and other's super important, right? Because that will tell us things that we don't know about. So we've already got we've already got all of the ones we know about, but we might want to know about things or places that are unknown to us. So when we have other, we highlight the property, edit the property, logic, dependent fields. So this basically means that one field is dependent on another. It's kind of a parent hierarchy. So it says, if where did you hear about us, which is our new property, contains any of, and then you look for the option other, which is hidden by my avatar, other, please show form field, please specify, and add that. And then you see here, it updates this property to show the dependent field. So on the front end of the form, if a user selects other, the form will automatically then display this option that says please specify, and then the user will type in where they found you that wasn't included in the list of predefined options. So let's not forget to make this a required field. Then you just update, and that publishes the changes on your front end. One thing to keep in mind is if you have quite a long form already, so you have, let's say you have over four or five fields, you might not want to increase the friction on your form, which means you want to kind of keep as few fields as possible. There is the option, if you use the meeting link form. So after a user completes the general book a demo form, for example, the next place, or then they're redirected to a meeting link, you might want to add this as a required field there to reduce the kind of the shock of so many fields on the first form. Or another way is to add it onto the thank you page. So when you redirect a user to your thank you page that says, thanks for booking a demo, you could have the option there that they can just quickly say, oh, I found you, a big B2B event or whatever. The problem with that is that you'll lose probably the number of people that fill it out because it's not required and it's an afterthought, right? It's another annoyance for them. So I think it's best to have it on your initial form, so long as you're happy with adding an additional property, an additional field to your form. So that's how you create it. Things to bear in mind are if you get a lot of so basically you would run a report after this using these properties and find out what people said in terms of where they found you. So then you can kind of go in and make an analysis of this, and you might find that podcasts, for example, are really, really successful for you, although it would have been quite difficult to track that without having this property, unless you have another expense and you invest in another software. Publication would be the same. Things like personal recommendations, what I would recommend you do is you create a very simple workflow that says if a demo is booked, for example, and where did you hear about us is any of personal recommendation, that you then set a notification to trigger to one of your sales reps that gets them to then contact them faster than they might have if you didn't set up this notification. The reason for that is that personal recommendations, otherwise known as word of mouth, is an incredibly powerful channel or means to convert somebody, because they already have another person kind of vouchsafing your product for them who has hopefully used that product, and then that person is far more likely, in my opinion, to convert than someone that has just interacted with content. Now, I think a personal recommendation means they're far further down the funnel, down the buyer's journey, than other means or other kind of channels to conversion. So when you have, let's say, a couple of months of submissions on your where did you hear about us property, I would then recommend you export all of the data from that property, and then export all of the original source data from your contacts, and then compare them. So you might have one column, so you have all of your contacts, and then you'd have one column where HubSpot says they came from paid social, and then you have a second column that has the where did you hear about us information, and then you compare it. So contact X from HubSpot's point of view, maybe from paid social, but from their own kind of verification, they came from a podcast, or Contact Y may have organic search, but the contact may have said that they first heard about you at the big B2B event. So there will be kind of a disparity between the two reporting methods. That's interesting, obviously, then, because you can see that you can't always trust the original source in HubSpot, but it also means you can then continue to kind of enrich your business decisions based on first-hand reporting from your users. So that is a simple way to increase the number of attribution points you can make from the dark funnel, by creating two properties: the where did you hear about us, and then the please specify, and then looking at the data after a couple of months, and then make business decisions based on where people actually heard about you to begin with.